So we'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah.
I didn't hear any mention of protecting the environment.
Well, that's one of those social areas. The question was, I didn't talk about the environment. Well, that's another one of those social programs that I have in mind. I put it on the slide in the beginning. If you don't have resources, you can't protect the environment either. Won't happen.
But cutting regulations, for example.
I'm not saying cut regulations that do a good thing. I'm saying I used Sarbanes-Oxley as an example of a regulation that was passed basically because they didn't know better. And they don't want to go back and change it. It's mind-numbingly dumb, really. It makes me sad. And there's an example like that after another that's not about cutting useful regulations on the environment and people and programs, but that if we don't pay attention to them, we're not going to have the resources to take care of the environment. We will not. Yeah.
How do you think that the core-to-core mentality of companies affects their innovative ability, particularly large companies?
The core culture inside of a company?
Quarter-to-quarter.
Oh, the quarter-to-quarter. Well, some people do that. Some people don't pay attention to that. You think, the question was, does the quarter-to-quarter mentality of Wall Street, is that the reason why big companies don't do a good job? I don't think that's the reason. I think the amount of money they need to spend on innovation is de minimis compared to any impact on that. When I look at their innovation process, I say, you can't be successful with this. That's where I think it's missing. And the best CEOs, by the way, do not run their companies that way. If you have a CEO who's running it according to the expectations of the market, sell.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Hi, Curt. Josh Aubend. I just want to thank you for repeating all those wonderful processes about innovation, as you know, which I've been espousing for years and years and years. But I wanted to, there's one that you hadn't mentioned, perhaps you may have overlooked it, and I'd like to throw it in. It's an essential ingredient. It doesn't necessarily fall into the STEM model that we all use with respect to science and so forth, but it's an ingredient that everybody here possesses, and it is also an enormous engine which we can stimulate, learn from, enlarge, and that engine is called imagination, something that even Einstein used very well. And I don't want that to get lost with respect to innovation, so I thought I'd come up and mention it.
Well, it certainly is not lost in my mind. What I've noticed, though, is these programs that I mentioned liberate people's imagination. It stimulates them. Their competitive juices kick in. All kinds of good things happen, and they surprise themselves on their innovative ability. It's amazing, actually.
Hi, my name's Cindy, and I've worked with Ray Kurzweil the past couple years, so I've got to see a little bit of his innovative process. So that's actually what my question is about. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about your thoughts about the process for change. We've got some major problems in almost every sector of our society, including probably the worst, in my opinion, is healthcare. I mean, 50%, a full 50% of the bankruptcies in this country come from healthcare problems. And yet we have a kind of system in place where it's basically constipated in order to get any change to occur. I mean, we have this Occupy Wall Street phenomena that, is basically people getting so fed up they've taken to, exercise their freedom of speech to make a change. But I mean, this sort of problem of not being able to create change. You may be imaginative, you may have great ideas, but things in Europe get changed, but they don't get changed here. Things in Canada get changed, but they don't get changed here. I'm just wondering if you might talk a little bit about that.
Well, change is hard, and frankly, it's going to bubble up from the bottom of America. It's going to take a while, because until there are enough people who understand and demand it, it's not going to happen. Think about the way we created that health care bill. Does anybody here think you're going to get better health care and lower cost? It violated every rule I just talked about. And you know what really bothers me about it? It's going to stifle innovation at the best time in the history of medicine. That is crazy. If we have to stop them from doing these things, say, no, we want to have a good healthcare system. Yes, we have to take care of the poor, but we have to do it in the right way that doesn't bankrupt America. But change is hard. It's going to take a long time.
The recent collapse in financial markets, some experts think that it was due to lack of regulation. It was due to especially capitalization requirements for banks, very lax capitalization requirements and not enforced. Now, I saw in your presentation cut regulation many times. And I'm wondering, can you give us 3 regulations that are stopping innovation and formation of new companies?
Okay. I didn't hear the very end of your... Can you do that, Ann?
Yes. Can you give me examples of 3 existing regulations that are causing lack of innovation and formation of new companies?
Okay. So Sarbanes-Oxley is one. The Spitzer ruling is another, which did away with basically having a way to evaluate the value of the companies. I would say our immigration policy would be a third one. I mean, there are a bunch of things like that that all contribute to our problem. I don't know have anybody here heard of the Spitzer ruling, which destroyed basically the market for small new companies? Again, it wasn't, they didn't intend to do that, but they did it. And they won't go back and fix it. So we, on Obama's Innovation Council, we're putting these ideas in front of them about, you got to fix this, you got to fix this, you got to fix this. But it's hard in Washington to get things acted on. People know what to do. They really do. Everybody on that panel knows what to do. It's not magic.
When my kids were in high school or junior high, they had what was called junior achievement, where groups of kids developed a product and marketed. Does anything like that exist? And do you think something like that, if it were expanded throughout the country, would start meeting the kind of objectives that you're talking about?
Well, yeah, all those programs, getting kids to work in teams and solve problems and do all that sort of thing, that's all goodness from my point of view. I say, God bless, go do more of it. When kids put a lemonade stand up, I say, go get them.
Somebody's got to have the impetus to get this going in
Well,
the education.
It is. So I'll give you an example. So I'm in Cleveland, and when I give a talk, usually the educators will call me up and they want to talk to me because of what we do. So I meet this guy. I have dinner with him. He's an entrepreneur. He made a lot of money in Asia. Came back to America. He said, "What am I going to do? I'm 50 years old. I want to work for the next 25 years. What am I going to do?" He said, "Well, I'm going to form a KIPP school." He did. So I said, "Is the mayor helping you at all? Is the government helping?" He said, "No, they want to kill me. Every year they pass another law to put me out of business because they're owned by the unions. So unions hate KIPP schools." So I said, "Doesn't that discourage you?" He went, "Nah, I'm an entrepreneur. I've seen bad. That's not bad." They're all over America. I tell you, I meet them all the time. Yeah.
Have you found innovation comes more often from individuals or teams, and then also small companies or larger companies? And one thing that comes to mind is IBM and sort of breaking down into smaller business units to be, I would maybe more innovative.
Our experience here is that it always takes a team. It really doesn't matter how smart you are today, you're not smart enough. You're not. You need to have people who complement you and add other skills that you don't have. So when we form our companies, for example, we start off with small teams. It might be 3, 4, 5, 6 people before we scale it up. But if we have one person, and progress is really hard because you don't even have a buddy to talk to, So that's the first one. I've seen conflicting studies on where most of the innovation comes from. Most of them, I think, say it comes from new companies, small new, who grow and displace big established companies. Obviously, there are exceptions. Apple is one, right? Breaking business units up into autonomous units, often is essential. If you don't do that, the other parts of the business will kill it because they don't want, something that might threaten their turf. So it takes a really strong CEO to say, no, we're going to do this. We're going to protect this. We're going to nurture this. We're going to make it happen.
You spoke a bit about best practices. How does one find and evaluate best practices for a given area?
Well, my book is about innovation best practices. Rick Baker's book is about innovation best practices. There's a wonderful book from the Manhattan Institute that talks about them. There are actually, lots of publications that talk about what to do and why they're so important and valuable. I'll tell you one Rick Baker thing. I mean, it's so simple. It didn't cost any money. The first day he was in office, he asked his aide to go talk to the community and find their biggest problem. So he goes away, and a couple of days later he comes back and he says, sidewalks. He goes, sidewalks? I thought it'd be crime or litter. He said, nope, sidewalks. Why? Because there was a big retired community there, and if they fall down and break a hip, it's really dangerous. So he goes, okay. And then he's thinking, how am I going to fix that? What he did is he put every city function on the web. You can go look it up, see his. So time to fix sidewalks. Started at, I think it was like 2 years or something. It's down to about a week now, just by measuring it. And he did that with every city function. Didn't cost a thing.
Why didn't it cost a thing? How did he pay for this?
He had no money. He got people to volunteer to help him because he had a big vision. For example, when he said to me, do you want to help me build the best city in America? I'm thinking, yeah, of course, I want to be part of that. That's exciting. And later on, I told him how impressed I was by that, and he came up to me and said, yeah, Curt, but if I'd come up to you and said, will you help me build the third best city in Florida? Would you want to work with me? No. He was aspiring to be the best, and he took St. Petersburg, beautiful place now, if any of you have been there, and it's going up.
My name is George. I have two questions. The first one is very simple. If the United States is number 5 in competitiveness, who are the 4? China, India?
No.
No.
No, they tend to be
competitiveness.
They're Singapore, Switzerland. I can't remember the other ones.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
You can, if you go.
We can go look.
It's on Wikipedia. If you
Okay.
go put it up, you'll find them.
Right. And what's a quick definition of competitiveness here?
That's good. I've never been asked that before.
Yeah. Because. Okay. I'll look at Wikipedia.
It's easy to say something. We actually struggle with these definitions. Well, we all kind of know what it is, right? There's somebody who's trying to basically take your market share away.
Right.
Destroy your
that's why I thought China and India would be right up there, but that might be a different definition.
Well, they are, but their
still
societies are still very
there.
primitive,
Okay.
and both those countries are enormously corrupt.
Yeah.
They got a long way to go.
Okay.
And by the way, China's population is going to peak pretty soon and then go down. And they're going to discover, just like Europe, that they have a gigantic problem. If you go to Japan, they peaked about 7 or 8 years ago. In the beginning, you don't notice it. And now every time I go, you can feel it. It just sucks the energy out of the country. Because it's hard when you don't have young people and people who can work and create new things. And that's what's happening. So I think we can hold our own with China.
My other question has to do with my interest in math education for youngsters. Since I retired, I became a math tutor because I was
good for you.
Discouraged about the United States of America being 24th in the world, right behind Jamaica. Oh, my God. It's unbelievable. Okay, so, and you mentioned the innovative thing, the internet, of course, is going to turn things around and put education upside down. You mentioned the Khan Academy, and then you have the SRI Cornerstone. Mm-hmm. Could you please maybe tell people in a few words the similarities and differences between anything that's coming out of Cornerstone and the Khan Academy, especially in the way of being free. I have no idea about the Cornerstone products. And you know, what your view is of the future for these two innovative math educators.
I think they're very complementary. He's putting little videos on that illustrate various kinds of computational properties, you know, how to solve an equation, whatever. And you can download one of those little videos, and the kids can watch it, and it's another way to have somebody represented other than your teacher, and kids seem to love it. Our approach is more structured, if you will, because we really are using those 5 principles that I mentioned in every bit of the curriculum. So it's a real curriculum. But when it's in place, the whole, you know, finally, we're still under development. His kind of work is a perfect complement to it. And by the way, there's dozens of other people who are producing amazing content. As soon as we get the kids hooked up, and we have a core curriculum that's based on good ideas, I think lots of opportunities will arise.